Hey everyone, it's your buddy and pal, Karnak, Serenity Wargaming and Explanations. It's been a little while since I've done a video. I know, I've been really busy. If For those of you that followed along, you know that about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, was AdeptiCon, and I was slammed with a lot of work before, during, and after, and my schedule has gotten a little bit less busy. Who knew that there were so many after action reports and information to gather and everything else that goes along with after an event? But there's a lot there, getting through it, not so much left as before. But that's the boring stuff. We're not here to talk about so much any of that. But this is going to be kind of an update at what happened at Adepticon, what I've been doing afterwards, and kind of what are some of my plans for the next month or so. So you guys can kind of get a sense of where my schedule is at and how consistent I can be on my videos. So first of all, if I sound like I'm sick, I'm not. It's allergies. Spring is finally here where I live. We've been covered in ice and snow for forever, and now the pollination is out with a vengeance. And I've taken allergy medicine, but my body still thinks that it's dying, even though it's not. So for Adepticon, I missed the con crud. I missed the COVID. Didn't get any of that. Very happy about that. For Adepticon, I was running on a severe sleep deficit for almost the entire event. People like, yo, you look so tired. And yeah, I was. I was. It's a lot of responsibility when you're in charge of a hall. And also, I will fully admit I overbooked myself a bit, maybe even a little bit more than a bit. Luckily, I had a great team of people helping me out, especially in the hall. I didn't have any worries. Anything that was facing towards the players or interactions with the player, the community, that went pretty much perfectly. There was no issues with that. The Legion side of things, John Griffin and his team, Michael Tisdale and his team for MCP, Chris Allen and his team for X-Wing, of course the guys I was able to put together, Simon, Dennis, and Stuart for Armada. I couldn't have done it without all of their help. All the staff. I mean, we had like 30 staff members or something like that across all four of those games. Of course, we had Rob there from Asmodee. We had Courtney there from Asmodee AMG that were helping out, and they brought a boatload of prizes for all the games. Like, here, hand these things out. They especially I want to give a shout out to Courtney. She spent days and days and days digging through the warehouse and finding and opening every single box and getting every single item and bringing it. And just, everyone was saying that they were impressed with the amount of prize support. And you can totally thank Courtney for like taking all that time finding it, and of course for the world championship kits that they provided. And also, like, they had all these posters that we were trying to hand out, and a few other bags and goodies and things. Of course, Adepticon had those medals. You probably saw those medals we gave out for factions and for winning and other things. And of course, there's the trophies. Oh man, there was a lot. There's a lot of stuff, and I hope that everyone at least got to walk away with something good. We tried to make sure we were throwing out prizes as often as we could and just throwing stuff at people. And even then, there was just no way we could get rid of it all. Most of it, AMG was gracious enough to donate to Adepticon to use continuing into future events. Some of it though was just there was just so much that we're like, if you could take the smaller box back and just hand this out to other events that ask for prize support, that would be a good way to continue to help pay that forward. But just we couldn't. There was just so much. There's just no way we could hand it all out. I was really happy to see the rapid reinforcement cards that they officially printed. We handed those out. Those went over great. And I hope to see more of those at other events. We can start getting those out into the wild. And they had all the correct card wording, for any errata or changes or anything was all on there, which is great to see. Because sometimes they're like, oh, here's the card, and it's like, that is the old wording, but that's okay. It's great to have the official card, in our hands. So I'm happy for it. I am happy overall. I'm 95% satisfied with how everything ran. There's some administrative stuff that I'm not going to go into that. You don't need to know about it. It's boring. It's just boring stuff of like, oh, we didn't do XYZ or whatever. And that's okay. I am proud of every single team, what they accomplished. They ran their events on time, they got things done, they didn't sit there and moan and complain. If something happened, they're just like, okay, this happened, let's just take care of it. And that was just phenomenal. It made my work in that hall a lot less stressful, because I had a lot to do other than just running Armada, being responsible, making sure that if there were requests, I was trying to make sure I was going to go run those down. I was also only one of very few select individuals that actually had a full-on convention key, like I key to the kingdom. You could unlock any door. Please don't come stalk me in the future. I will not have that key again. That responsibility was a lot, having that key. It was a $10,000 key. You lose it, that's $10,000. That was a lot to have that around my neck at all times. I had it on a lanyard. Yeah, I just was like every 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, is it still there? Is it still there? Can't lose this thing. And it involved, waking up like 5:30, 6 a.m., always before 6 a.m., and getting down there to unlock the hall to start letting staff in. And then it also meant that I couldn't lock up until usually after midnight. Most nights I was up until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Wednesday, I think I was up till 3 a.m. And then again, I have to be up before 6 a.m. to open the hall. So I was running on maybe 20 hours of sleep for that whole weekend. And there was even one night where I could not stay on my feet, and I asked somebody else who had a key to be able, like, could you please, I know I'm asking a lot of you, you're also dragon ass and tired, but could you lock up for me? And that was Michael Tisdale, and I just am so appreciative of them helping me out so I could try to get a little bit of rest. And that was a huge difference. For the next several days, I had enough energy to actually focus and get things done. So for the hall, I also want to shout out the streamers we had. We had Yavin Base for Legion. We had the Professional Casual Network for MCP, Ion Radio for Armada, and Gold Squadron for X-Wing. They all killed it. Phenomenal coverage, phenomenal, just all the feedback I heard from across the hall, because I did make sure to at least try to go around and talk to players and the staff of all of them and just be like, hey, how's your experience going? How are things going for you? It was just overwhelmingly positive worlds. One of the best worlds ever put on. I am not afraid to brag a little bit. I feel like we did it better than maybe the last couple of world attempts, at least for Armada anyway. It felt way more structured, organized. It was not single elimination for our finals, which actually made finals exciting and gut-wrenching and just such a fight to the very, very... If you watch the stream, and it sucks because I know the power went out for a portion of it, but like the two finalists in the final match tabled each other and knocked themselves out of the running for first place, which allowed somebody below to kind of jump up and sneak in there. And it was just like, it was a fight the whole time. And before the worlds, it was always just single elimination, and it's just so boring. They're so boring because nobody wants to fight each other, because all you have to do is just kill like one tiny little thing and then run away for the rest of the game and you win. And the games were just so boring. They were so boring. Nobody wanted to watch them. They were not exciting. But in this case, it was exciting to the very last moment. Like when the games ended, even the judges, we had no idea who won until we actually tacked things in and got the standings. So that's how it should be. That's what makes Armada finals exciting, and I was really happy to see that. And again, great coverage by Ion Radio. The whole event. I'm going to make sure I'm linking their channel. So if you're like, oh, I didn't see any of the videos, go watch the videos. Their coverage is great. They're such great commentators. They make Armada... I'll be the first to tell anybody, Armada is a boring game to watch. It really is. It's lots of standing around and people going, but not knowing why they're thinking certain things. Again, commentators, when they're really good commentators like Ion Radio, they're like, oh, he's thinking about this, and this is probably what he's thinking about. Taking into account his opponent, where he's at. And sometimes players in actions and things will still surprise you, but having somebody be able to analyze that and explain that and be like able to explain like why they're taking so long, what they're considering, makes the game so much interesting when you understand those aspects. So again, great job. Let's get into... I feel like I went on a little bit, but again, Everyone did a fantastic job. I'm completely satisfied with how the hall ran. Again, I recognize that I had a few failings in some areas, but that wasn't really player facing. And that's something that, okay, well, I failed here, but that's okay. Look at all the success I had. I can improve for next time. And that's what I told everyone who gave me feedback is you can tell me I did a terrible job, and I will accept that feedback. I would write it down, I'd make a mental note, I would follow up with it, because even if 95% of the event goes fantastic, that doesn't mean that I'm still not dissatisfied that it couldn't be 100%. Like, I still accept and acknowledge that 95 is great, but man, falling down on that 5%, it still gets to me, right? It's like I am a perfectionist. And I know that for a few players, speaking for Armada, there were a few instances where, yes, they did not have a great time at Adepticon. And part of that was due to two instances, one of which I'll fully own up to. The other one is just kind of like, unfortunately, this is just how some of these things go. One of these instances was in the last chance qualifier, and or no, both of these were. Yeah, both. Well, no, there's three. There's three, but anyway, one of them was a ruling that I made. That at the time that I made it, I thought I understood everything what the player was telling me. Turns out I didn't fully comprehend that, and I made a ruling based on my gut, based on that situation. And having come home and thought about it and really analyzed it, I probably still would have gone with that, but with a minor change to that. At the end of the day, it made a player really dissatisfied, and they expressed that to me in polite words. They understandably they are upset, and I understand the frustration. I'm really glad that they at least were able to communicate to me and tell me about it, because most people just walk away and won't even tell me about it. It's okay to be upset about something and then go talk to me afterwards about it, right? Unfortunately for that player, like, I couldn't fix what had happened. It was too late. All I could do was, like, I recognize that this happened. I made a ruling in the moment. I realize now that that could have been better. I have no alternative to solve this at this point except that I sincerely apologize. And that's all I can do. And understandably, that player is still frustrated with that. And I accept that. And all I can do is just say I'm sorry and that I'll try better next time. So I know for that player, that was a dissatisfying experience. There was another player for, well, not so much a player, but for those of you that were in the last chance qualifier, there was a time where there was about like 3 or 4 minutes left in a round. And I made the executive decision. This was the end of round two. We were waiting on 2 tables to complete. And for both of these games, they were about to end their rounds and start new rounds with only like 2, 3, 4 minutes left on the clock. And I made the executive decision to not allow them to start new rounds with time remaining. And is that per exactly what tournament regulations say? No, but it also has a block in there that says that if a game cannot conclude in a timely manner, the tournament organizer, event organizer, has the ability to end the game at the current game state. And that's what I did. My justification for this is that in Armada, it is not as simple to say, oh, I activate one ship and you activate one ship, and that's fair, right? No, that's not how Armada works. When you start a new round, everything is a cascading effect. It's a strategy. This is a strategy game. So you can't tell me, oh, I activate my Superstar Destroyer, I blow up 3 of your ships, and then you activate one of your ships, and like that's the same thing, right? That's not equal. Same thing with part of your strategy is like, okay, I need to activate these 2 ships to get this other ship in position to where then my third activation then can capitalize on where the current game state is. Well, they activate 3 and I activate 3. It's like the same. It's again, it's not. It's not. 3 minutes is not enough time for either player to feel justified in the amount of time that they were given to complete anything. For one player, they might say, "Oh, it's fair to me because their ship would run off the board, and therefore my ship might live because now they can't activate anything else because we're out of time. Oh, that's too bad." Or again, it's just not fair to either player because one player could take up 2 minutes and the other player only gets 1 minute for their activate. Like, there's no fair way to do that. So again, I made the executive decision, like, even though there's time on the clock, we are not letting either of these games progress past their end of rounds, and that's what we went with. Understandably, those tables did not agree with that decision, and that's okay. I accept that they don't agree with that. And you might think, well, what you're saying sounds logical. And in the moment, remember, this is world championship stuff. Nothing is going to be entirely logical in the moment when you're so passionate about why you're there and your competition and what you're competing for. Okay? There a lot of times there is no time to explain a logical about what's going on there. You just have your passion in the moment. And again, I recognize that that was a frustration for some players. And all I can say is I made a decision based on what I felt was best for the event overall. You don't have to agree with it, and you don't have to like it, but that's the decision I made. And moving into the future, hopefully we don't run into that situation again. Is it going to probably happen again? Yeah, likely. I mean, there's lots of random stuff that happens that, like, I've never run into before, and that's every single event. But I made a decision that I felt was best, and my judges backed me on it. So thank you, my staff, for backing me on it. And any decisions that they made, fully supported them. I do know that there was one instance on day one of Worlds where, in this, you would think with all the proofreading and having 15 different people look at it, I did get told that like one round ended like 10 or 15 minutes too soon. And that's because in my spreadsheet, for somehow a cell got knocked out, and so it bumped the whole cell sheet of that schedule like up. So when they were tracking time, they looked at the end time and like, oh, well, the end time says this, but we started at this. And they were like, well, did we start late? Did we start early? Did we not start in time? And they couldn't quite get to the point where they had the ability to pinpoint exactly when the round should end. So at the end of the day, they went by what was on the schedule. And it was the rest of the schedule, I checked it afterwards. It was all perfect except for that round where for some reason it lost 15 minutes on there. But they went by the schedule, and I support them for going by the schedule, even if in that one instance it was wrong. They just didn't have time to sit down and see where the error was. They had an event schedule overall to keep. Support them on that. Okay, I understand that losing 10, 15 minutes of your game time sucked. But again, that's a mistake that I fully own up to. That's not my judge's fault. I don't blame them for going by what I wrote and told them to abide by. That's my mistake. So if anyone to blame for that day one round where you were shorted like 10, 15 minutes, I apologize. That's my mistake. All we can say is in the future, we will continue to try to double check and making sure that the schedule is right. Like I said, there was 10 different people who all looked at that schedule and were like, yeah, this looks fine. So these things happen. Other than those, that's all the negative, right? Positive. All the other positive. I heard so many people had such a great time with the Sector Fleet doubles, especially the Sector Fleet doubles. People really loved the Sector Fleet singles. We opened up more tables for that. Those sold out instantly. The task force battles, about only half the people who signed up showed up for those, and that's okay. But anyone who played those little battles, like, yeah, this is kind of like a fun way to just do something without thinking about it. It's just like you could go around and see how the rest of the tables are doing, come back to your game, finish up real quick. People enjoy them, but the sector fleets definitely were a bigger hit. And of course, for the Suma kits that were getting sold, or not the kits, but you paid your $5, you show up, you get your part of the Suma kit. Most people were just doing that just to show up, just to get their Suma part, and they didn't even want to play. And that's okay. We made sure that we were still giving that out to anyone who essentially said, hey, I just want the part of the kit that I'm supposed to get. Here's $5. and we would do that. I know that there was some frustration, especially on Thursday and Friday, with tables, and that was just that's one of those administrative things that I'm not going to get into. It was what it was. Ourselves and X-Wing handled it great, and I know there's a bit of like a tug of war between tables. We figured it out. We accomplished it. We moved forward. Ultimately, all the feedback I heard across the board from everyone was how much they were having fun. And that is what I'm there for. I am there to hear that. Oh, that makes me feel so good about myself hearing when somebody says it's having a great time. So thank you for expressing that to me, to my judges staff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I was so happy just for all of it. I definitely was excited to hear about rapid reinforcements too. To be clear and upfront, I have no involvement in that. I don't really have any comments about it. We probably will talk about at least new price for a little bit, or we even talk about new price now. Uh, I'm excited and interested to see what the cards are. I know for new price, uh, it is once per activation while performing an attack against an enemy ship. You may spend one shield from the attacking hull zone to change one die face to enter result. Uh, I feel like that this is a better representation of price than what we had before in terms of like theme. Like price was all about like sacrificing minions to accomplish the end goal, no matter the cost. I need to accomplish what I'm doing. I think this thing of losing shields to get the die facing is great, and it also has a limitation that once you run out of shields in that zone, like you you can't keep using price. So there's that balance of you got to fix your ship to wanting to deal damage in that struggle there. So I actually really like this card. Other than just my concern is potentially still balance with especially with the onager. It's everything is got to be balanced around the onager. I like the card overall. I think it's going to bring SSD back in the competition because remember back in the olden days when H9 and quad turbo laser cannons were not modifications, SSD would just slap both on its ship and then just pew pew away. But then when they were both made modifications and you couldn't take both, you saw those vanish in favor of, LTT or XI7s or something else in the turbo slot. But with price being back now, honestly, the combo of LTT and quad turbo laser cannon, like that's going to be the new Wombo combo coming into this because SSD has so many shields. It's so easy to use a repair token to keep shifting shields into where you need to go. And I also like running salvo on my SSDs. I like slapping down local fire control and throwing away a contain token. I don't really take gunnery teams on my SSDs. I feel like that you don't need them in this day and age because the main issue with gunnery teams is you always have to be concentrate firing, which you can do if you're getting the tokens and stuff. But it's just, for me, it always seems like you're able to shoot at 3 different targets with your SSD or 2 targets. And I would rather have better dice fixing. And with price, with quad turbo laser cannon, with those red dice, getting that extra red that you can then, I always run like Darth Vader Officer and Gazanti that you can then choke out and then roll more damage. SSD is all about like not wanting any blank showing and having every single die being utilized to its full potential. So I like price. I've already run a game with price on SSD with fantastic results. That auxiliary left arc that only has like 5 dice in it or something like that. I was able to add with Ravager and then with price of the quad turbo laser cannons, I was able to get it up to 8 dice and I still did like 10 damage. So ridiculous. I'm looking forward to seeing what the other cards are. I'm looking forward to seeing how Governor Price comes into play. Again, my main concern is that you're just going to see Price slapped on an onager for even more onager stuff, but it's still competition with the intel officer, but we'll see. Anyway, going back to AdeptiCon. I arrived on Tuesday, helped set up. Wednesday, helped set up. I also was managing part of what I mentioned before about being a little bit overbooked was I was also managing Adepticon volunteers to some degree. And that meant I had to be going out to ensure that people getting checked in correctly. I was following up on anything, talking to people. And if there was a request for volunteers, I was trying to make sure that people were going and taking care of that. So I was kind of running back and forth between two areas, which is why most people didn't see me for for a lot of it. And also, just even if I was in the AMG hall, I was usually in the prize closet. I would lock myself in there, and like for hours, I was filling packets because we had all those packets players got. Somebody had to fill those, right? Somebody had to figure out what goes in what and goes where. And we made sure that we were trying to do that in the morning or at night. But there's hundreds of players, so there's just hundreds of these packets we had to put together. I mean, the hall had overall like 400 to 500 people in it at any given time, if not more. So it was busy. And again, couldn't have done it without the fantastic leadership and teamwork of all the teams. There was no internal drama, or at least I'm not aware of any. I thought we all worked great. I've spoken to everyone, and nobody has called me words or names to my face. So hey, that's a win. And again, it was just great working with everyone. Everyone was a professional. Everyone knew what they needed to do, and we got it done. And there's just no problems, which is not always been my experience at some of these other larger conventions. So again, really thankful for the people that helped out and make sure everything went well. What else is there? I just remember just being busy, working hard, getting things done, people having a great time. AdeptiCon this year had the fastest teardown time I've ever seen. We were done by 9. Usually they were up until like midnight, and that's a direct result of having like a volunteer thing where people could sign up and say, "Hey, I want to help," and they pitched in and helped us out. And wow, that got done so fast. So thank you if you did volunteer. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You help make my life easier, but overall the convention life easier as well. So thank you for your spending some of your vacation helping out and getting things done. For staff, again, just Dennis, Simon, Stuart, thank you so much. Your help was, you guys were great. You killed it, knocked it out of the park. Highly would recommend them for anything. They've got my backing, full backing on anything event related. For Ion Radio, I hope to see you guys at more events and wanting to do more coverage and things. Speaking of other events, let's talk on. Before I get into other events, actually, let's talk on some event information. So for Armada, we had 47 players in the last chance qualifier, 80 for the World Championship, 28 for Sector Fleet Singles. We had 28 players and 14 teams. For the doubles, 8 players for the task force battles, and for the Sumo of all things overall, there was like at least 55 tickets sold for that. So really, really successful. A lot of variety, a lot of players came out. Let's see here. For factions, let's look at last chance qualifier. So for faction breakdown, this is where some of the statistics get really, to me, really interesting. So last chance qualifier is 24 Empire lists, 24, 11 Rebel, 8 Republic, and 5 Separatists. The top 4 that progressed was 2 Imperials, a Separatist, and a Republic. Oh, and then we had somebody not show up, so Corey was able to get into a Rebel. So 1 from every faction, which is great to see. And getting into the World Qualifier event, let's see here. On day 1, 31 Empire, 27 Rebels, only 5 Republic, and 17 Separatists. But you look at the progression to the next day, this is where numbers get just so crazy to me. So crazy that all huge Empire, huge Rebel, barely any Republic. And this is how it broke down for day 2 for the top 26. There was 10 Empire. So Empire just got crushed down, but still leading the pack. Rebels had 8. Republic made it in, but there was 3 of them. 3 Republic made it in. Like from 5 to 3, that's nuts. It shows that people are vastly underestimating Republic. That's always been my personal opinion, is that people are sleeping on Republic. It is a good faction, but not the spats on everything kind of a deal, right? If you look at the fleet lists that these players took, they're maximizing Republic in other areas. That is just, it's great. So 10 Empire, 8 Rebel, 3 Republic, and 5 Separatists. For the finals, 3 Empire, 4 Rebel, and 1 Republic. And the Republic list is actually what came in second. It was so close to getting first, and I just would have cackled so hard if the Republic player had managed to just, so close on it. So that is the breakdown for Factions for World. They were great games to watch. Again, if you haven't gone to Ion Radio and watched those games, they were fun to watch. I'm really happy that we could have such professional coverage for the first time ever at Worlds and have people doing that. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, we're talking about the Stampede City Open. So the next event that I'm helping out with, is the Stampede City Open. That is in Calgary, in Canada. They do have kind of like their soft launch going on right now with tickets. And some people are going to look at that price and say, oh, $54.58. Realize that this is Canadian. So if you're coming from America to Canada, that's only like $40, $45, something like that. So it's a bit cheaper for us Americans. Of course, you got to get to Calgary. But I will be handing out a $5 off Canadian, $5 off Canadian discount code. It's going to be linked on here. I'm going to throw it up or something. It will be there, links to the event packet and to this. So again, if you're wanting to come to Calgary, it's on June 10th and June 11th. I'm going to be there, help managing things out. That the convention area, or I shouldn't say convention, the venue area looks great. There's a lot of space there. I'm excited for it. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. The Canadians know how to party, y'all. If any of you watched my video for when I went to Montreal, like, you expect the same good time here. They're going to have food there. There's a bartender. It's just going to be fun. Good times. For prizes and things, we're still working on prizes because we're also working with Atomic Mass Games about, if this qualifies for a qualifier or what other prizes and things can we get. That's still to be determined. But knowing Atomic Mass Games and their willingness, wanting to get events, brought into the fold and official and all that, I like to think that we're going to get some extra goodies from them for that. I just can't say what or anything like of that nature. But again, registration's open. We have room for up to 200 players, so our average turnout, we're expecting 30 at least for each game, if not more. So it's going to be, it's a big area, and it's going to be a good time. So if you have not ever been to Canada before, come to Calgary, come to the Stampede City Open. Or if you're in Canada, go to your Canadian events, support the Canadian events. And again, I'll hand out this discount code. It is good for up to the first 25 people who use it. And it's not just for Armada. Okay, if you have friends that play X-Wing or Legion or Marvel Crisis Protocol, this code is good for that too. Okay, it's the same cost across the board for everybody because we're all there for the same amount of time. Just because X-Wing can play like a million games to Armada's one, we're all still there in the same amount of time. It's the same price, and everyone can utilize that discount. So again, that's gonna flash up on there or be listed or posted. Any of that. I've been talking for a bit, but that is kind of what I've been working on after AdeptiCon. Well, Stampede City Open. Also, collecting all this information takes time. I know somebody keeps mentioning to me, hey, I need the objectives from the list, please. And I haven't forgotten you. I will get there at some point. That point is not right now. I'm just too busy. I'm sorry. It's May. May is looking good for that. May looks like I should have free time to send over those objective lists. I know that they want it for tracking and all that. And again, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just a stack of like hundreds of papers sitting on my floor right here that I just kind of have to go through or go through my emails. And I promise I'll get that to you. Haven't forgotten about it. Okay. Also, like collecting all the volunteer information. We had like over 150 volunteers, like over almost like 1,700 hours of volunteer service, and just make sure that's getting all tracked, that I'm reaching out to each and every single volunteer and getting their feedback, making sure I wrote things down correctly for them so they can be credited. We were handing out the little AdeptiCon volunteer acrylic buttons. Those went over great. And of course, if the more you did, you had the ability to get your badge comped for 2024 or to earn cart credit for 2024. So it's just a lot of work, and yeah, it's getting done. And the feedback from the volunteer thing, because this was the first year Adepticon did a more organized effort to try to organize volunteers. Overwhelming feedback was extremely positive from across the board. And where there's still again areas that didn't do so great and it fell down and it crashed and burned, absolutely. And again, I take responsibility for anything that crashed and burned, but ultimately I'm still proud of what this set out to accomplish and what it did accomplish, and I'm happy for that. But enough on that. What are future plans? As you know, again, as I keep saying in my last video, I mentioned I'm moving. I am moving out of Oregon. I'm moving to Vegas. And that's exciting. But at the same time, when am I going to accomplish that in my very, very busy schedule? So I finally sat down and I'm like, I got to figure out a way to do this, right? I got to get there. Otherwise, I'll never make it there. So luckily, I found time. So I'm actually leaving this Saturday. I will be live streaming, by the way, a Armada game. The local that I play against, Bjorn, we are going to be playing on Friday night. I'm going to be bringing my SSD Price. He's agreed to let me use Price, and we're going to have fun with that. So it's going to be Friday. But Saturday, I start a 2-week road trip. I'm going to drive to see my parents in Idaho, spend a few days there. It's their anniversary. I'm taking them out to dinner. I'm going to see my sister, and then I'm going to drive down to St. George. Another part of my family is there. Most of my brothers all live in that area. Drive down, say hi to them, chill out with them for a bit, and then pop on over to Vegas, where I'll be spending probably a week in Vegas, not having fun, not going to casinos or vacation. It is apartment hunting. I got to find an apartment, got to get a lease, got to get approved. I'm hoping to have my move-in date be June 1st for that area and be down there and start benefiting from all the tax benefits. It's mainly the tax benefits and the way cheaper airplane flights. Oh my gosh, like even when I just kind of did napkin math for like a year for the traveling that I do, and then again the taxes like on my business and my personal end, like I estimated anywhere up to $8,000 to $10,000 on savings there. Now compare that to rising gas and rising food prices and some other costs of living, but that would be the same even if I was in Oregon. Like that's not going to change. But my estimation is that if I'm not losing money by moving, and I'm going to be gaining more benefits by doing so, to me that's worth it. So I'm going to make that leap, and it's going to happen. My hope is again June 1st, and then I'll be there. And I don't know that area super well, but I've been looking all over the country, like where I wanted to go. And I know some people recommended like, oh, come out to the Midwest. Again, it's nothing against the Midwest. I am not excited about that. Not excited about the Midwest or that area. And it's not because of the people or anything. It's mainly the environment, and I just generally don't. I just don't want to be in that part of the country. I would rather be, in a huge populated city. But it's about the same size as Portland. There's interesting facts that I find out is that Las Vegas actually is about the same size as Portland and about the same population. As crazy as that sounds to me, that's if you look at the facts of like the spreadage and population and stuff. So it's not going to be terribly too different for when I do travel and go visit people in Portland. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be able to handle it. I've lived in Oregon my whole life and I've dealt with snow and all this, and I'm just ready for not dealing with snow. So it will be interesting to see how I can deal with heat. But I'm excited. I'm just excited. I have a lot more friends in relation. Like, yes, I'm leaving my Oregon friends, but it's not that I'm not going to come back and visit. Like, I still want to go to the Bend Brew Fest. It was canceled this year because logistics reasons on their end that I can totally understand. But next year, like, I love Bend Brew Fest. I always want to go back for that. I have more friends kind of like in the SoCal area and again, St. George and Utah. And just in general, I've not lived anywhere else. I lived in Oklahoma for like 2 years. That was a different experience. Uh, but I've not ever like really gotten out of my comfort zone. So I'm excited to get out of my comfort zone and try something new. And for my business is still not really making money, but I'm not really losing money. So life is good. Like I'm happy. I'm way more happier now than I was 2 years ago. My physical labor job, and I loved my old job. Right, I loved it. I did, but I'm getting on, and doing that physical labor was definitely starting to become a drain on me, and I had to start thinking of like, if I do this for another 10 years, I am gonna mess my body up so bad that like I'll be paying medical bills for the rest of my life, and to me, that's not worth it. So I'm happy to be doing what I enjoy, and what I enjoy is enough for me to get by. And I am satisfied with that. Yeah. I don't know where else I'm going with any of this. I'm just kind of talking. I'm going to make sure that as I'm driving and I'm in Vegas, I'm going to do updates. I'm not really a travel vlogger, but that's not really what this channel is about. But like, I'm excited to share with you what I'm doing and still at least trying to keep my channel engaged, right? I know it's not board game related or Armada related at some point, right? All things are circles. We'll swing back around to that. But you know, some people are legitimately interested in my journey and where I'm going, and yeah, tag along, see what's going to be happening with that. Man, what else is there? I don't know. I'm going camping later this year in May, also in July. I love camping. It's going to be at live action role play events, which I have not been to since 2019. So I'm excited to get back out. For those who don't know, I do live action role play. I do airsoft. I kind of dabble in a lot of different areas just because I like broadening my horizons and having different experiences. So I'm excited to see some friends I haven't seen in like 5 years for the LARPing stuff, and just being outside and camping and being with friends. And again, I don't know. Life is good, right? Is everything great about my life? No. There's some things that I'm disappointed in. But overall, I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with the changes I'm doing, where I'm going. And yeah, can't ask for more than that, right? So I don't know what else I want to talk about. I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. I don't have any other notes or anything laying around. So yeah, that's what's going on. So stick around for Friday live streaming, or maybe not so much live streaming. I'll have to think about the internet. Last time it was a little sketchy, but maybe it worked this time. If not, I'll record it, I'll upload it, and then yeah, join me on my journey and more information. And just how long I've been talking? Like 45 minutes. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna head on out. If you stuck through it this long, thank you. I appreciate you, and hey, I'll catch you next time.